The fluorescent lights in the government office hummed with a sound that felt like a drill boring directly into my temple. It was a low, aggressive buzz, the soundtrack to the worst day of my life. I sat in a plastic chair that was cracked down the middle, clutching a folder of documents so tightly my knuckles had turned the color of old parchment. I was 32 years old. I had been working since I was 16. I had managed warehouses, organized logistics for shipping companies, and balanced books for small businesses. I was capable. I was responsible. And I was completely broke. Not just waiting for payday broke. I was negative balance, overdraft fees, eating ramen dry because I couldn't afford the gas bill broke. Next, the voice called out. It was devoid of emotion, mechanical. I stood up, my legs feeling heavy, like they were filled with concrete. I walked to the window. The clerk, a woman named Sharon Lewis according to her name tag, didn't look up. She just held out a hand for my paperwork. I need to apply for emergency Medicaid, I said, my voice barely a whisper. And food assistance. Just for a month or two. Until I get back on my feet. It was humiliating to say the words out loud. I had always been the provider. I was the one who sent half my salary to my stepmother, Linda, every month. I was the one who paid for my stepsister Chloe's car repairs, her rent when she got evicted, her credit card bills when she maxed them out on essential trips to Cabo. I had drained my entire savings account, my emergency fund, my future college fund for a degree I never got to take, to pay off a gambling debt Linda claimed would get her knees broken by loan sharks. I gave her everything. And the moment the money ran out, she stopped answering my calls. Then I got laid off. Now, here I was. Begging. Sharon typed my social security number into her keyboard. Clack. 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 I stared at the peeling paint on the wall behind her, trying to dissociate. I just needed the approval. I needed to see a doctor about the persistent cough I'd had for weeks, and I needed to buy groceries. The typing stopped. It didn't taper off. It stopped abruptly. I looked down. Sharon was staring at her screen. Her brow furrowed. She hit the enter key again, harder this time, as if force would correct whatever error she was seeing. She squinted. Then, she pushed her chair back, the wheels screeching against the linoleum. Is there a problem? I asked, my heart beginning to hammer against my ribs. I have my birth certificate. I have my proof of residency. I have my termination letter from the warehouse. Sharon didn't answer me. She looked up and for the first time, she really saw me. Her eyes widened behind her glasses. It wasn't annoyance in her expression anymore. It was fear. Stay here, she said. Her voice was tight. Do not leave this window. She got up and practically ran to the office behind her glass partition. I watched her talking to a man in a cheap suit, her manager, presumably. She pointed at the screen. She pointed at me. The manager, a man with graying hair and a weary face, walked to the computer. He looked at the screen. He paled. Visibly. The blood drained from his face so fast I thought he might faint. He looked at me, then back at the screen, then he picked up the landline phone on the desk with a trembling hand. What is going on? I asked, louder this time. Panic was rising in my throat like bile. Is my identity stolen? Did Linda do something with my credit? That had to be it. Linda had ruined my credit score years ago, maybe she had done something worse. Maybe she had committed fraud in my name. The manager hung up the phone and walked out to the main floor, bypassing the security glass. He approached me slowly, hands raised as if I were a startled animal that might bite. Ma'am, he said. His name tag read Thomas Grant. I need you to come with me. Now. Why? I haven't done anything wrong. I stood up, backing away. The security guard near the door shifted his stance, his hand hovering over his radio. Miss Miller, Thomas said, stumbling over the name. It's not about what you've done. It's about who you are. Or who the system thinks you are. I don't understand. According to the Social Security Administration database, Thomas said, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper so the other people in the waiting room wouldn't hear, the Social Security number you just gave us, it belongs to a deceased person. I laughed. A short, hysterical sound. That's ridiculous. I'm standing right here. I've been paying taxes on this number since I was 18. How can I be dead? Not just dead, Thomas continued, sweating now. This number was flagged by Interpol and the FBI in 1994. It belongs to a child who was declared legally dead after a high-profile kidnapping case. The room spun. The hum of the lights grew into a roar. That's impossible, I stammered. My name is Sophia Miller. My mother was Denise Miller. She died when I was 6. My stepmother is Linda Miller. I have a life. It's a miserable life, but it's mine. Thomas shook his head gently. We can't process your application, ma'am. Because according to the federal government, the person you claim to be doesn't exist. And the number you're using belongs to the heir of the Harrison fortune. Harrison. The name meant nothing to me. But the look in his eyes told me everything. I just got off the phone with the local field office, Thomas said. They are 5 minutes away. Please. Just come into my office and sit down. I wanted to run. Every instinct in my body, honed by years of walking on eggshells around Linda, told me to run. But I had nowhere to go. My car was out of gas. My apartment was getting an eviction notice on Friday. I let him lead me into the back office. As I sat in the leather chair, staring at the dust motes dancing in the light, I realized my hunger had vanished, replaced by a cold, heavy dread. I wasn't Sophia Miller. Then who the hell had I been struggling to survive as for the last 32 years? The FBI agents didn't kick down the door. They didn't come in with guns drawn. It was much quieter and somehow much scarier than that. 2 of them walked in. A man and a woman. The woman, Agent Kesha Monroe, had a face that looked like it was carved out of stone, but her eyes were kind. She sat opposite me, placing a thick file on Thomas Grant's desk. Sophia, she said, testing the name. Is that what you call yourself? It's my name, I snapped. I was terrified, but I found that defense mechanism I always used with Linda, turning fear into sharpness. It's on my driver's license. It's on my birth certificate. Your birth certificate is a forgery, Agent Monroe said calmly. A very good one, likely purchased on the black market in the early 90s. But a forgery nonetheless. She opened the file. She slid a photograph across the desk. It was a picture of a baby. Maybe 6 months old. Sitting on a velvet blanket, holding a silver rattle. The baby had bright, curious green eyes. This is Nia Jordan Harrison, Monroe said. Born March 14, 1991. In Chicago. Daughter of William and Eleanor Harrison. She slid another photo. An age progression sketch. It looked like me. It wasn't exact, the hair was different, but the eyes were mine. Nia was taken from a park in 1991. Her nanny was distracted for 2 minutes. A woman was seen walking away with her. That woman, Monroe tapped a grainy black and white surveillance photo, was Denise Miller. I stared at the grainy image. The woman was blurry, but the posture, the way she held her head. It was Mom. The woman I had mourned for 26 years. The woman whose death had left me in the clutches of Linda. Denise Miller lost her own child a week before this photo was taken, Monroe explained, her voice softening. A stillbirth. She had a psychotic break. She drove 3 states away, saw a baby that looked like hers, and she took her. She kidnapped me. Yes. She renamed you Sophia. She moved you around constantly to avoid detection. She forged documents. And when she died in a car accident in 1997, you were left with her partner. Linda. Linda knew. The question tore out of my throat. We don't know yet, Monroe said carefully. But we're going to find out. I leaned back, the leather of the chair creaking. Memories flooded my brain, sharp and agonizing. I remembered my 18th birthday. I had been so excited. I had been working at a diner after school, saving my tips in a jar hidden under my bed. I wanted to buy a used car so I could go to community college. I had dreams. I wanted to be an accountant. I liked numbers. Numbers didn't lie. Numbers didn't yell at you for leaving a light on. I came home that day, the smell of grease still on my uniform. My bags were on the porch. Trash bags. My clothes, my few books, my teddy bear, all stuffed into hefty sacks like garbage. Linda was standing in the doorway. She was smoking a cigarette, her eyes narrowed against the smoke. What's this? I had asked, my voice trembling. Happy birthday, Linda sneered. You're 18. Legal adult. Get out. But where am I supposed to go? This is my house. This is my house, Linda corrected. Denise left it to me. Not you. You aren't my blood, Sophia. You never were. You were just a burden I got stuck with. I promised Denise I'd keep you until you were grown. You're grown. Bye. Please, Linda. I have nowhere to go. I'm still in high school. Not my problem. Go find a shelter. And don't you dare ask me for a dime. She had slammed the door. I spent that night sleeping behind the diner near the dumpster. I had spent the next 14 years trying to prove to her that I was worthy. I thought if I worked hard enough, if I gave her enough money, if I fixed enough of her problems, she would finally love me. I thought I owed her for raising me after my mother died. But I wasn't a burden she inherited. I was a crime she concealed. Linda knew, I whispered to Agent Monroe. The realization was cold, like ice water in my veins. Why do you say that? Monroe asked, pen poised. Because she hated me, I said. Not just regular stepmother hate. She looked at me like I was a ticking time bomb. She never let me get a passport. She never let me apply for financial aid for college because she said the government would audit us. She wasn't protecting me. She was protecting herself. Agent Monroe exchanged a look with her partner. If she knew and she kept you, that's kidnapping. That's federal. And the money, I added, my mind racing. She always needed money. But she never worked. How did she live before I started paying her bills? We'll look into it, Monroe promised. But right now, Sophia. Nia, there are two people who have been waiting 32 years to meet you. My parents. Your parents, she nodded. And they aren't just anyone. William Harrison is a senior partner at one of the biggest law firms in Chicago. Eleanor is a heart surgeon. They are very wealthy people. And they never stopped looking. I looked down at my rough hands, scarred from years of packing boxes. I looked at my frayed jeans and my shoes that were held together with superglue. I was an heiress. I thought about the ramen noodles. I thought about the time I had an infected tooth and pulled it out myself with pliers and whiskey because I couldn't afford a dentist. I thought about Linda, sitting in her recliner, watching TV, screaming at me to work more overtime so she could buy lottery tickets. A deep, dark rage began to kindle in my chest. It wasn't the hot, explosive anger of a teenager. It was the cold, calculated fury of a woman who realizes her entire life was stolen for profit. I want to meet them, I said. And then. I want to destroy Linda Miller. The reunion was a blur of tears and silk. I was flown on a private jet to Chicago. I had never been on a plane before. I sat in a leather seat that cost more than my car, staring out the window at the clouds, feeling like an imposter in my own life. When I walked into the Harrison estate, I felt like I had stepped onto a movie set. The ceilings were 20 feet high. There was art on the walls that looked like it belonged in a museum. William and Eleanor were standing in the foyer. They looked older than in the photos, of course. William had silver hair and a kind, lined face. Eleanor was elegant, trembling as she held a handkerchief to her mouth. "Nia," Eleanor whispered. I didn't know what to do. I didn't remember them. But when Eleanor stepped forward and cupped my face in her hands, looking into my eyes with an intensity that burned, something inside me cracked. "You have your grandmother's eyes," she sobbed. "I knew it. I knew you were alive." William wrapped his arms around both of us. He smelled like expensive cologne and safety. For the first time in 32 years, I was hugged by a father. Not a creepy uncle, not a boyfriend wanting something, a father. "We missed everything," William choked out. "Your first steps. Your first day of school. We missed it all." They introduced me to Lucas, my younger brother. He was 28, a sharp-eyed lawyer with a jawline that could cut glass. He looked at me with curiosity and fierce protectiveness. "I always wanted a big sister," he said, shaking my hand firmly. "I'm going to make sure no one ever hurts you again." For 3 days, it was like a dream. I had a warm bed. I had food, so much food. I had hot showers with towels that felt like clouds. They didn't push me. They just wanted to sit with me, to hear my voice. But the reality of my old life wasn't done with me yet. On the 4th morning, I was sitting in the solarium, drinking coffee that didn't taste like burnt dirt, when Lucas walked in. He looked grim. He was holding an iPad. "Nia," he said gently. "We need to talk about your finances. Or rather, Sophia's finances." "I don't have any," I said bitterly. "I have about $12 in my checking account." "Not that," Lucas sat down. "Since we identified you, Dad's firm has been doing a forensic sweep of the identity, Sophia Miller, to prepare for the legal transition. We found activity." "Activity?" "Someone tried to access your old bank account this morning. The one you used to transfer money to Linda. They tried to overdraw it by $500 at an ATM in Ohio." My stomach dropped. "Linda." "And that's not all," Lucas swiped on the screen. "We found credit cards opened in your name dating back 14 years. Maxed out. Defaulted. There are utility bills in your name for a house you didn't live in. There are payday loans." I stared at the screen. The list was endless. Capital One. Discover. Amex. Thousands of dollars. Tens of thousands. This is why my credit score was 400, I whispered. "I thought I just had bad luck. I thought maybe I missed payments. But I never opened these." "It's identity theft," Lucas said, his lawyer voice sharp. "But it's worse. Look at the dates." He pointed to a specific entry. A loan taken out 2 weeks after I was kicked out of the house at 18. She used my social security number to keep the lights on after she threw me onto the street, I realized. She kicked me out so I wouldn't see the mail. So I wouldn't see the bills she was racking up in my name. "Exactly," Lucas said. "She needed you gone so she could use you as a ghost. A financial zombie." My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was an unknown number. But I knew the area code. It was Ohio. I looked at Lucas. He nodded. "Answer it. Put it on speaker." "I'm recording." I swiped the screen. Hello. Sophia. The voice was raspy, smoky, and instantly triggered a fear response in my gut. It was Linda. It's me, I said, my voice shaking slightly. Where the hell are you? Linda screamed. I went to your apartment. The landlord said you haven't been there in days. And why is the bank card declined? I need to buy Chloe's medicine. Chloe didn't take medicine. Chloe took tequila shots and bought designer purses she couldn't afford. I'm not in Ohio, Linda, I said. Well, get back here, she yelled. The gutters need cleaning, and your sister needs a ride to her job interview. And you missed your payment this month. Do you want me to starve? After everything I did for you? Everything you did for me? I repeated. I took you in. Linda screeched. I raised you when nobody else wanted you. I put a roof over your head. You kicked me out on my birthday, I said. That was for your own good. To make you tough. And look, you survived. Now, send me $500. Right now. Or I'm going to call the cops and tell them you stole my jewelry. It was the same old threat. The same old manipulation. For years I had caved. I had apologized. I had sent the money. But I looked around the solarium. I looked at the marble floors. I looked at Lucas, who was watching me with intense focus, waiting for me to make a move. I wasn't Sophia the victim anymore. I was Nia Harrison. I was the heir to a fortune. And I had a lawyer sitting 2 feet away. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. It was the quiet click of a lock falling into place. I stopped trembling. The tears dried up instantly. It was a physical sensation, like a valve turning off. The grief I felt for the mother I thought I had lost, the pity I felt for the woman who claimed to raise me, it all evaporated, leaving behind a barren, cold landscape of clarity. Linda wasn't a chaotic, struggling widow. She was a parasite. A deliberate, malicious parasite who had fed on my labor and my identity for decades. You want money, Linda? I asked. My voice sounded different. Deeper. Steadier. Of course I want money, she snapped. I deserve it. I heard rumors, Sophia. Mrs. Henderson said the FBI was at your place. She said you got picked up. What did you do? Did you sell drugs? Did you get arrested? She was fishing. She didn't know the truth yet. She knew something was wrong, but she didn't know I had found them. I didn't get arrested, I said coolly. I found my family. Silence on the other end. Dead silence. It lasted for 10 seconds. Then, Linda's voice changed. It lost the screechy aggression and dropped into a low, menacing tone I had only heard a few times before, usually right before she did something truly awful. You found them, she repeated. The rich ones. My breath hitched. You knew. I knew Denise was crazy, Linda said, her voice dripping with venom. I knew she didn't birth you. You didn't look anything like her. And when she died, I went through her things. I found the papers. The clippings from the Chicago Tribune. And you didn't call the police, I stated. It wasn't a question. Why would I? Linda scoffed. If I called the cops, they would have taken you away. And then who would get the survivor benefits checks? Denise set it up so I got checks for you until you were 18. Easy money. You kept me for the checks. And for the maid service, she laughed cruelly. You were a good little worker, Sophia. Better than Chloe. Chloe is useless, but she's my blood. You were just an investment. I'm recording this, I lied. Well, Lucas was recording it, so it wasn't really a lie. Record all you want, Linda hissed. Nobody cares about you. But listen to me closely. If you really found that family, that means you have access to money. Real money. So you owe me. I kept your secret. I didn't turn Denise in, which would have ruined her memory for you. I kept a roof over your head. I want a payout. You want a payout, I repeated, looking at Lucas. He was typing furiously on his laptop, his face a mask of controlled rage. He wrote a number on a notepad and turned it to me, $500,000 extortion. I want $500,000, Linda said. Cash. In a bag. Or I go to the press. I tell them how ungrateful you are. I tell them how you abandoned your poor, sick stepmother who saved you from the foster system. I'll paint you as a monster, Sophia. And rich people. They hate bad press. I'll ruin your reunion. It was classic blackmail. Emotional manipulation mixed with a threat to reputation. You want $500,000, I said slowly. Or you'll destroy me. Clock's ticking, Cinderella. You have 3 days. Bring it to the house. Alone. Or everyone knows what a piece of trash you are. She hung up. I put the phone down on the glass table. My hand was steady. Lucas stopped recording. He looked at me, impressed. She just admitted to federal kidnapping laws, fraud, extortion, and knowledge of a felony. That recording alone is enough to put her away for 5 years. 5 years isn't enough, I said. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the sprawling gardens of the Harrison estate. I thought about the ramen. I thought about the holes in my shoes. I thought about the nights I cried myself to sleep wondering why I wasn't lovable. She stole my life, Lucas. She stole 32 years. She stole my childhood. She stole my parents' happiness. She stole my identity and ruined my financial future. I turned back to him. I don't just want her in jail. I want to dismantle her. I want to take everything she loves, her reputation, her freedom, her money, and her precious victim narrative. I want to expose her to the world. Lucas smiled, a shark-like grin that told me we were indeed related. I can help with that. Mom and Dad are ready to unleash the hounds. We have the best legal team in Chicago. No, I said. Lawyers are for the end. First, I need evidence. Hard evidence. She said she went through Denise's things. She said she found papers. You think she kept them? Linda is a hoarder, I said. She never throws anything away. Especially if she thinks she can use it as leverage later. If she has proof she knew I was kidnapped, if she has the original clippings or Denise's confession. Where would they be? The basement, I said. Under the floorboards in the storage closet. That's where she hides her insurance policies. She keeps dirt on everyone. Lucas closed his laptop. Do you have a key? I reached into my battered purse and pulled out a rusty key ring. I kept it. In case of emergencies. I used to go over there to fix her boiler when she was out. Then let's go to Ohio, Lucas said. It's time to go hunting. We took the car, a nondescript rental sedan, not the Harrison limo, and drove to Ohio. It was a 6-hour drive, but it felt like 6 minutes. My mind was racing, planning, strategizing. We parked 2 blocks away from the peeling, gray Victorian house that I had grown up in. It looked smaller now. Dirtier. The gutters were hanging off, just like Linda had complained about. The lawn was overgrown. It smelled like neglect. Linda and Chloe are at the bingo hall on Tuesdays, I told Lucas as we crept through the neighbor's hedge. They never miss it. We have a 2-hour window. My hands shook slightly as I put the key in the back door lock. Please work. Please haven't changed the locks. The key turned. Stiffly, but it turned. The smell hit me first. Stale cigarette smoke, cat litter, and cheap vanilla air freshener trying to mask the rot. It was the smell of my trauma. Stay close, I whispered to Lucas. Don't touch anything without gloves. Lucas pulled a pair of latex gloves from his pocket. He had come prepared. We moved silently through the kitchen. Dirty dishes were piled high in the sink. Take-out boxes littered the counter. It was exactly as I remembered. We headed straight for the basement door. The stairs creaked. Error. Error. I knew which steps to skip. I guided Lucas down into the dark, damp belly of the house. The storage closet is back there. I pointed to a small wooden door under the stairs. The floorboards are loose in the corner. I knelt down on the cold concrete. I pushed aside piles of old magazines and broken Christmas decorations. I found the loose board. I pried it up with a screwdriver I found on a shelf. There was a metal lockbox. Bingo, Lucas whispered. The lock was flimsy. One hit with a hammer and it popped open. Inside, there were stacks of papers. I started sifting through them. Here, I said, my voice trembling. My God. She kept everything. First, the credit cards. A stack of them, rubber-banded together. Sophia Miller. Sophia Miller. Sophia Miller. All different banks. All expired. This is the smoking gun for the fraud, Lucas said, taking photos with his phone. She was churning cards in your name. Then, the letters. I found an envelope addressed to whoever finds this. The handwriting was frantic, jagged. It was Denise's. I opened it. If you are reading this, I am gone. Please forgive me. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I just wanted a baby. I took her from the cart. She looked so much like my Sarah. I named her Sophia. Her real name is Nia. I saw it on the news. I can't take her back. I'm too scared. I'm sorry. Linda found out. She found the flyer in my purse. She says she won't tell if I sign the house over to her. I have to do it. I have to protect Sophia. I read it aloud, tears streaming down my face. She blackmailed your kidnapper, Lucas said, his voice horrified. Linda knew the whole time. Denise wanted to confess, or at least felt guilty. Linda used it to steal the house. And me, I added. She stole me. I kept digging. I found the newspaper clippings. Missing heiress, Harrison baby vanishes. The paper was yellowed and brittle. Linda had highlighted the section about the reward money. $100,000 reward. She didn't turn me in for the reward, I realized. Why? Because the survivor benefits and the indentured servitude were worth more over time, Lucas analyzed. Or she was afraid of being implicated as an accomplice. So she chose to torture you instead. I found one more thing at the bottom of the box. A notebook. It was a ledger. January 1999, Sophia check, $400. Spent, bingo. February 1999, Sophia check, $400. Spent, Chloe dance class. June 2015, Sophia salary transfer, $800. Spent, new TV. She had tracked every penny she stole from me. It wasn't just chaos, it was accounting. She treated me like a business asset. We have everything, Lucas said, closing the box. This is enough to bury her for life. We need to go. As we stood up, I heard a sound upstairs. The front door opening. Mom, I forgot my phone. Chloe's voice. They were back early. The window, I whispered, pointing to the small hopper window near the ceiling of the basement. Go. We scrambled up onto the washing machine. Lucas pushed the window open. He climbed out first, agile and quick. He reached down and pulled me up. Just as my feet cleared the sill, the basement door opened. "Who's down there?" Linda yelled. We dropped into the grass outside and ran. We sprinted to the car, hearts pounding, adrenaline flooding our veins. We peeled away from the curb just as I saw Linda's face appear in the front window, her mouth open in a scream of rage. She knew someone had been there. But she didn't know we had the box. I clutched the metal box to my chest. "I got the receipts," I said, laughing breathlessly. I actually got the receipts. We didn't leave town immediately. There was one more stop I needed to make. "Mrs. Henderson," I told Lucas. "She lives 2 doors down. She's the neighborhood watch. She sees everything." Mrs. Henderson was 70 years old, a widow who spent her days gardening and watching the street. She had always been kind to me, sneaking me cookies when Linda sent me to bed without dinner. We parked the rental car around the block and walked to her house. She was sitting on her porch, knitting. "Sophia," she squinted as we approached. "Is that you? My goodness, child, you look different. You look expensive." "Hi, Mrs. Henderson," I smiled. "Can we talk? This is my brother, Lucas." She eyed Lucas's suit. "Lawyer?" "Yes, ma'am," Lucas said. "Good," she huffed. "About time someone sued that witch." She invited us in for tea. Her house smelled like lavender and dust, a comforting, grandma smell. We sat on her floral sofa. "Mrs. Henderson," I started. "I found out something about my past. About who I really am." "You mean about you being that missing baby?" she asked casually, pouring tea. I froze. Lucas dropped his spoon. You knew." "I suspected," she corrected. "I remember when Denise brought you home. You were too big to be a newborn. And you didn't look a lick like her. Denise was a nervous wreck. And then, a few years later, I saw a show on TV. Unsolved Mysteries. Saw a baby picture. Looked just like you. Why didn't you say anything?" I asked, a lump in my throat. "I tried," Mrs. Henderson exclaimed. "I called the police in '94. They came out. Linda talked to them at the door. She showed them some papers, fake ones, I guess. They left. Said it was a mistaken identity. Linda told everyone I was going senile. She poisoned the whole neighborhood against me." "She gaslit you too," I said. "She did worse than that," Mrs. Henderson frowned. "A few years back, she convinced me to invest in some business Chloe was starting. Took $5,000 of my pension. Never saw a dime back. Said the business failed. I know she spent it on a cruise." Lucas leaned forward. "Mrs. Henderson, would you be willing to testify to that? To the fact that you called the police? To the money she took? To the way she treated Sophia? Testify?" She set her cup down. "In court?" "Yes. We're going to take her down. For everything." Mrs. Henderson looked at me. She saw the new strength in my posture. She saw the determination in my eyes. "Honey," she said, reaching for my hand. "I watched that woman make you scrub the driveway with a toothbrush while her daughter sat eating ice cream. I watched her throw you out on your birthday. I've been waiting for karma to knock on her door." She squeezed my hand. "I'll tell the judge everything. I kept a diary, you know. I write down everything that happens on this street. I have dates. I have times." Lucas's eyes lit up. "A contemporaneous record. That's gold. That's better than memory." "I have the entry from the day the police came," she said, standing up to go to her bookshelf. And the day she kicked you out. I wrote down what she screamed at you. You're not my blood, you're just a paycheck. She said that. I asked. Loud and clear. We left Mrs. Henderson's house with photos of her diary pages, and a sworn affidavit signed on her kitchen table. As we walked back to the car, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from YouTube. Live now, a mother's heartbreak, the truth about Sophia. Don't look, Lucas warned. I have to, I said. I opened the link. It was Linda. She was sitting on her living room couch, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Chloe was next to her, looking somber. Hi everyone, Linda sniffled into the camera. I don't usually do this. But my heart is broken. My daughter, my adopted daughter, Sophia, she has abandoned us. I watched, mesmerized by the performance. I took her in when she was an orphan, Linda lied effortlessly. I sacrificed everything. I worked 3 jobs. And now, she found out she has rich biological parents. And she just cut us off. She left her sister sick without medication. She won't answer our calls. Money changes people, guys. It's so sad. The comments were rolling in. OMG, so ungrateful, rich people are the worst, stay strong mama bear. She's getting ahead of the narrative, Lucas said, his jaw tight. She's playing the victim card before you can expose her. Let her, I said, a cold smile forming on my lips. Let her climb as high as she wants. It'll just be a longer fall. The press conference was Linda's idea of a nuclear strike. 2 days after I ignored her blackmail deadline, I was sitting in the Harrisons' media room with my parents. My father, William, was red-faced with anger. My mother, Eleanor, was crying silently. On the giant screen, Linda was standing at a podium set up outside her dilapidated house. She had somehow convinced a local news station to cover her story. The headline Sharon's read, "Abandoned by the heiress, Foster MOM speaks out." Linda had dressed up for the occasion. She wore a modest black dress, which I knew she stole from Chloe, and a cross necklace I had bought her for Christmas 5 years ago. We are filing a lawsuit today, Linda announced into the microphones. For emotional distress. For breach of implied contract. Sophia promised to take care of us. We have a verbal agreement. She owes us for 18 years of room and board. We are seeking $5 million in damages from the Harrison estate. $5 million. She had upped the price. Chloe stepped up to the mic. My sister, or who I thought was my sister, she changed. As soon as she saw the money, she looked at us like we were trash. She forgot who wiped her nose. She forgot who loved her. The audacity was breathtaking. Chloe hadn't spoken to me in 3 years unless she needed bail money. This is slander, William roared, standing up. I'm going to sue them into oblivion. No, Dad, I said calmly. Sit down. Sophia, Nia, he corrected himself. We can't let them say these things. They are dragging your name through the mud. Let them, I said. They are doing exactly what I want them to do. They are putting their lies on public record. I turned to Lucas. Did she file the suit? Just hit the docket, Lucas confirmed, checking his tablet. Miller versus Harrison. She's claiming quantum merit, basically that she deserves to be paid for the services of raising you. Perfect, I said. Why is that perfect? Eleanor asked, wiping her eyes. It's horrible. Because, I explained, in order to sue for services rendered, she has to prove she provided those services legally. She has to prove a valid relationship. She just opened herself up to discovery. Meaning? Meaning we can depose her, Lucas grinned. We can put her under oath. We can force her to answer questions about the finances, the kidnapping, everything. And if she lies under oath, that's perjury. But we don't need to wait for court, I said. I want to end this now. She wants a meeting. She wants a settlement. I pulled out my phone. I dialed Linda's number. She answered on the first ring. I saw the news, Linda, I said, making my voice sound small and defeated. I told you, Linda gloated. I told you I'd do it. Now the whole world knows you're a brat. Please, I sobbed, fake tears were becoming my superpower. Please make it stop. My parents, they are furious. They might disown me. I can't lose this money, Linda. Then pay up, Linda said. 5 million. Settlement. Today. I can't authorize 5 million, I said. But I can get you 1 million. Cash. From my trust fund. But you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. You have to retract the statement. And you have to leave me alone forever. There was a pause. I could hear her calculating. 1 million was double what she originally asked for. Fine, she said. 1 million. Cash. Tonight. Meet me at the Omni Hotel, I said. Room 412. I'll have the money and the papers. Come alone, she warned. I will. I hung up. You aren't actually giving her $1 million? Eleanor asked, horrified. No, I said, standing up and smoothing my dress. I'm giving her a rope. And she's going to hang herself with it. I looked at Lucas. Is the FBI team ready? Agent Monroe is already at the hotel, Lucas said. The room is wired for video and audio. The bills in the bag are marked. As soon as she takes the bag, it's extortion. Federal crime. Done. And the kidnapping charges? Monroe says if we can get her to admit on tape that she knew about Denise, they add that to the indictment. She'll never see the light of day again. I walked to the mirror. I looked at myself. I didn't see the scared little girl who slept in a warehouse anymore. I saw a woman who was about to bring down a predator. Let's go to the party, I said. The hotel room was luxurious, but the air was thick with tension. I sat in an armchair facing the door. On the table between me and the empty sofa sat a black duffel bag. Inside, there were stacks of real money on top and paper cutouts underneath. Agent Monroe was in the bathroom, standing in the shower stall with the curtain drawn, listening. Lucas and a team of agents were in the room next door, watching the video feed from the cameras hidden in the smoke detector and the flower vase. Knock. Knock. My heart hammered, but I forced my breathing to slow. Inhale. Exhale. I opened the door. Linda and Chloe breezed in like they owned the place. Linda was wearing a fur coat that looked ridiculous in the mild weather. Chloe was filming on her phone. Put the phone away, I said sharply. That's the deal. No cameras. Or no money. Linda snatched the phone from Chloe. Put it away, idiot. We're here for the payday. They sat on the sofa. Linda eyed the bag hungrily. Is that it? She asked. $1 million, I said. It's all there. Linda reached for it. Wait, I said, putting my hand on the bag. Sign the papers first. I pushed the NDA across the table. This says we can never talk about you again, Linda read, squinting. And we admit that the lawsuit was frivolous. Sign it, I said. Linda laughed. She signed it with a flourish. Chloe signed as a witness. There, Linda said. Now give me the bag. One question first, I said, holding the bag back. Just for my own peace of mind. Why did you hate me so much, Linda? Was it just the money? Linda relaxed. She thought she had won. She thought I was broken. Arrogance is a powerful drug. You were annoying, she shrugged. You were always so needy. Trying to be good. Trying to please everyone. It was pathetic. And honestly, looking at you reminded me that I was stuck with a kidnapped kid. So you knew the whole time? I pressed. From the beginning. Since 1994, she admitted, waving a hand dismissively. Found Denise's little diary. Found the clippings. I could have turned you in, you know. I could have been a hero. But heroes don't get monthly checks. Keeping you scared, keeping you working, that was way more profitable. You stole my life for a monthly check. I'm a businesswoman, Sophia. Or Nia. Whatever. You were an asset. A depreciating one, lately, but an asset. Now hand it over. She grabbed the handle of the bag. She pulled it toward her. She unzipped it. She saw the cash. A smile of pure greed spread across her face. Finally, she whispered. I deserve this. No, Linda, I said, standing up. You really don't. I looked at the flower vase. Did you get that? Loud and clear, Lucas's voice came through the hidden speaker. Linda froze. Who is that? The bathroom door opened. Agent Monroe stepped out, her badge gleaming on her belt. At the same moment, the hotel room door burst open. Lucas and 4 other agents swarmed the room. Linda Miller, Agent Monroe said, her voice booming. You are under arrest for federal extortion, wire fraud, identity theft, and obstruction of justice in a kidnapping case. What? Linda shrieked, dropping the bag. No. This is entrapment. Chloe, film this. Chloe was cowering in the corner, sobbing. I didn't do anything. It was all her. You signed the extortion agreement, Chloe, I said coldly. You're an accessory. An agent grabbed Linda's wrists and slapped the cuffs on. The metal click was the most satisfying sound I had ever heard. Sophia. Linda screamed, struggling. Tell them to stop. I'm your mother. After everything I did for you. I walked up to her. I looked her dead in the eye. You're not my mother, I said. You're not even my family. You're just a thief. And you're going to prison for a very, very long time. I have rights, she spat at me. I'll sue you. You can try, Lucas said, stepping up beside me. But we have your confession on tape. We have the documents from your basement. We have Mrs. Henderson's testimony. It's over, Linda. They dragged her out of the room, kicking and screaming. Chloe was led out behind her, weeping softly. The room went quiet. The black duffel bag sat on the table, open. I looked at Agent Monroe. She nodded at me. You did good, Nia. You did real good. I sank into the armchair. I was shaking again, but this time, it wasn't from fear. It was from relief. The adrenaline was crashing. Is it over? I asked Lucas. The criminal part is starting, he said. But the hold she had on you. Yeah. That's over. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. For the first time in 32 years, I didn't feel the weight of a debt I didn't owe. I felt light. The courtroom smelled of floor wax and old mahogany, a scent that I used to associate with fear but now associated with inevitable justice. It had been 3 months since the arrest at the Omni Hotel. 3 months of Linda sitting in county jail because the judge had denied her bail, citing her as a significant flight risk given the offshore accounts the FBI found. Today was the beginning of the end. But Linda, true to her delusional nature, hadn't pleaded guilty. She was fighting it. She had hired a lawyer who looked like a billboard advertisement come to life, slick hair, shiny suit, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His name was Mr. Sterling, and his strategy was bold. He was going to argue that the extortion was merely a misunderstanding of a familial financial dispute. I sat in the front row behind the prosecution table. My parents, William and Eleanor, were on my left. Lucas was at the table with the district attorney, acting as co-counsel. I wore a tailored navy suit, my hair pulled back, my chin high. I wasn't Sophia the warehouse worker anymore. I was Nia Harrison, and I was here to watch the monster fall. Linda was led in. She looked terrible. The jail jumpsuit hung off her frame, and her roots were showing, gray streaks cutting through the dyed blonde hair. But her eyes were still defiant. She scanned the room, saw me, and sneered. She actually sneered. The trial began with Mr. Sterling trying to paint a picture of Linda as a martyr. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Sterling paced the floor. You will hear tapes. You will see documents. But context is everything. My client is a woman who took in a child when no one else would. She raised her. She fed her. And when that child came into money, she offered a settlement for years of unpaid labor. Is it ugly? Perhaps. Is it criminal? We say no. It was a good performance. I could see a few jurors nodding. They didn't know the whole story yet. They saw a frail-looking older woman being targeted by a wealthy family. Then, it was Lucas's turn. Lucas didn't pace. He stood still at the podium, projecting an aura of lethal calm. The defense wants to talk about labor, Lucas said, his voice carrying to the back of the room. They want to talk about the cost of raising a child. But we are here to talk about the cost of a stolen life. We are here to talk about a woman who didn't just raise a child, she held a hostage. The first witness was Mrs. Henderson. She walked to the stand with her cane, looking like everyone's favorite grandmother. But when she opened her mouth, she was a tank. She told me she hated the girl, Mrs. Henderson testified, pointing a shaking finger at Linda. Back in '98. Said that kid is my retirement plan. I wrote it down in my diary. September 12, 1998. And did you ever see Linda Miller mistreat the plaintiff? The DA asked. I saw her lock Sophia out of the house in the snow because she didn't finish the dishes, Mrs. Henderson said. I saw her take the girl's paycheck every Friday. I saw her driving a new car while Sophia walked to school in shoes with holes in the soles. Linda's lawyer tried to discredit her, calling her senile. Mrs. Henderson laughed. I remember what I had for breakfast on Tuesday in 1974, Sonny. Don't try me. But the real blow came after lunch. The Quantum Merit civil suit Linda had filed, claiming I owed her money for raising me, was being used as evidence of her motive for extortion. Lucas called Linda to the stand. She walked up confidently. She thought she could outsmart him. She thought she could charm the jury. Ms. Miller, Lucas began. You claimed in your civil suit that you provided exceptional care for my client, is that correct? I did the best I could, Linda sniffed, wiping a fake tear. It wasn't easy. She was a difficult child. Difficult, Lucas repeated. Did this difficult child pay the mortgage on your house from 2009 to 2023? She contributed, Linda said vaguely. It's normal for kids to help out. We have bank records, Lucas held up a stack of papers thick enough to be a phone book. Showing direct transfers of 80% of her income. For 14 years. Is that helping out? I don't know the exact numbers. Let's talk about what you knew, Lucas said, changing tack. You stated in the hotel room that you knew Sophia was Nia Harrison since 1994. Is that true? Linda froze. She looked at her lawyer. Mr. Sterling couldn't help her now. If she lied, it was perjury. If she told the truth, it was kidnapping. I suspected, she stammered. I didn't know for sure. Really? Lucas smiled. It was a terrifying smile. Please play Exhibit G. The courtroom screens flickered to life. The video from the Omni Hotel played. The audio was crystal clear. Since 1994. Found Denise's little diary. Found the clippings. I could have turned you in, you know. But heroes don't get monthly checks. Keeping you scared, keeping you working, that was way more profitable. The gasp from the gallery was audible. The jurors looked from the screen to Linda with open disgust. Linda's face turned the color of ash. On the screen, she looked greedy, cruel, and monstrous. In the courtroom, she looked small and defeated. Heroes don't get monthly checks, Lucas repeated the line, letting it hang in the air. Ms. Miller, you admitted to knowing a federal kidnapping victim was in your home, and you chose to enslave her rather than return her to her grieving parents. You didn't raise a daughter. You managed an asset. I was joking, Linda whispered weakly. It was just talk. And the $1 million you tried to take? Lucas asked. Was that a joke? I have rights. Linda suddenly screamed, standing up in the witness box. I raised her. She owes me. She has everything now. Look at her clothes. Look at her parents. I have nothing. You have nothing, Lucas said quietly, because you spent 30 years stealing someone else's everything. The judge hammered his gavel. Sit down, Ms. Miller. One more outburst and I will hold you in contempt. Linda collapsed back into the chair. She looked over at me. I didn't look away. I didn't flinch. I stared right into her eyes until she was the one who had to look down. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Extortion. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Accessory to kidnapping after the fact. Obstruction of justice. When the verdict was read, Linda didn't cry. She just stared at the table, her mouth moving silently, muttering to herself. She was disassociated, trapped in a reality where she was still the victim. But I wasn't done. There was one more person who needed to answer for their crimes. Chloe's trial was separated from her mother's, mostly because her lawyer, a public defender, argued that she was manipulated by Linda. They were trying to paint Chloe as another victim, a helpless child who did what mommy said. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Until I remembered the credit card bills. I met Chloe in a deposition room a week after Linda's conviction. She was out on bail, wearing a modest cardigan and no makeup. She looked young and fragile. Sophia, she breathed when I walked in. She tried to reach for my hand. Oh my God, Sophia. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Mom made me do it. You know how she is. She's crazy. I was scared of her too. I sat down across from her. Lucas sat next to me. Save it, Chloe, I said. My voice was devoid of warmth. We aren't here for a family reunion. We're here to discuss your plea deal. Plea deal? Chloe's eyes widened. But I'm your sister. You're not going to let them send me to jail, right? I'm family. You're not my sister, I corrected her. You're the daughter of my kidnapper's accomplice. And you're a thief. I never stole anything. Chloe protested, tears welling up instantly. I just borrowed your car sometimes. I just asked for money for bills. Lucas slid a folder across the table. This is a forensic accounting of the credit card fraud, Lucas said. We have IP addresses, Chloe. We tracked the purchases. We know Linda didn't buy the Louis Vuitton bag in 2019. You did. We have the shipping confirmation sent to your email address. Chloe stopped crying. She stared at the folder. We have the logs of you using Sophia's identity to open a Nordstrom account, Lucas continued. We have texts between you and Linda discussing how much money you could squeeze out of Sophia before she got suspicious. I pulled out a specific piece of paper. It was a printout of a text message thread from 3 years ago. Chloe, the cow just got her tax refund. Tell her the water heater broke again. I need that Gucci belt. Linda, on it. She's so stupid she'll believe anything. I read it aloud. Chloe flinched with every word. You called me a cow, I said. You called me stupid. While I was working double shifts at a freezing warehouse to pay for your dance classes that you never went to. I was young. Chloe pleaded. I was stupid. Sophia, please. I can't go to jail. I'm not like Mom. I can change. I'll pay you back. With what money? I asked. You've never held a job for more than a month. You've lived off my labor your entire adult life. I'll work. I'll do anything. Please, Sophia. We shared a room. We grew up together. Doesn't that mean anything? It means I know exactly who you are, I said. I know you watched Linda abuse me and laughed. I know you stole my tips from the jar under my bed. I know you knew I wasn't Linda's blood, and you used that to make yourself feel superior. Chloe's face hardened. The mask slipped. The poor little sister act vanished, replaced by the bratty, entitled hostility I knew so well. Fine, she spat. You want to ruin me? Go ahead. You always thought you were better than us. Miss Perfect. Miss Martyr. You think just because you have rich parents now, you're a saint. You're just lucky. Luck had nothing to do with it, I said, standing up. I survived. You just leached. We are offering you a deal, Lucas interjected. Plead guilty to wire fraud. 2 years in prison. 3 years probation. And you testify against Linda regarding the hiding of assets. If you refuse, we go to trial. And with this evidence, you'll get 10 years. Chloe looked at me with pure hatred. I hope you rot in your mansion. I'll sleep just fine, I said. Because I paid for it. I walked out of the room. I didn't look back. Cutting Chloe off felt different than cutting Linda off. Linda was a monster, cutting her off was survival. Chloe was a disappointment, cutting her off was a tragedy. But it was a necessary tragedy. I couldn't carry dead weight anymore. I had to fly. The sentencing hearing was the final nail in the coffin of my old life. The courtroom was packed. The media had eaten up the story of the missing heiress and the evil stepmother. It was front-page news. Linda stood before the judge. She looked smaller than ever. The fight had left her. She knew it was over. The judge, a stern woman with zero tolerance for exploitation, looked over her glasses at Linda. Ms. Miller, the judge said. In my 20 years on the bench, I have rarely seen a case of such prolonged, calculated cruelty. You didn't just steal money. You stole time. You stole potential. You stole a family's history. Linda didn't speak. For the count of extortion, I sentence you to 10 years. For wire fraud, 5 years. For identity theft, 2 years. For obstruction of justice, 3 years. These sentences will run consecutively. 20 years. Linda would be nearly 80 years old before she saw freedom again. If she lived that long. Furthermore, the judge continued. I am ordering full restitution. All assets belonging to Ms. Miller are to be seized and liquidated to repay the victim. The house on Elm Street is to be sold. The accounts are to be frozen. It was the ultimate financial twist. Linda had spent her life obsessed with money, hoarding it, stealing it. Now, the state was stripping her of every dime. She was leaving that courtroom bankrupt in every sense of the word. As the bailiffs led her away, she turned to look at me one last time. There was no anger in her eyes anymore. Just a hollow, terrifying emptiness. She realized, finally, that she had played the game and lost everything. I walked out of the courtroom into a sea of flashing cameras. My father put his arm around me, shielding me. My mother held my hand. "It's done," William said. "She can never hurt you again." "Not yet," I said. "There's one more thing." We went straight from the criminal courthouse to the civil administration building. We had an appointment. The clerk there was different from the one at the Medicaid office. She was smiling. She had the paperwork ready. Petition for change of name. Current name, Sophia Renee Miller. Proposed name, Nia Jordan Harrison. I looked at the document. Sophia was the name Denise gave me. It was the name Linda screamed at me. It was the name on the eviction notices and the overdue bills. It was a name associated with struggle, with fear, with not being enough. Nia was the name my mother whispered to my father in the delivery room. It was the name on the missing posters. It was the name of a girl who was loved, who was wanted. I picked up the pen. My hand didn't shake. I signed. Nia Jordan Harrison. It looked right. It looked like the truth. "Congratulations," the clerk said, stamping the document. "It's official." That night, back at the estate, I did something ceremonial. I had brought the black box from the basement, the one with the fake credit cards and the ledger. We went out to the fire pit in the garden. It was a cool autumn evening. The stars were bright. I tossed the credit cards into the fire. The plastic curled and melted, releasing black smoke. I tossed the ledger. The pages caught fire, curling up, the ink of Linda's handwriting disappearing into ash. I tossed the fake birth certificate. "Goodbye, Sophia," I whispered. "You were strong. You survived. Thank you for getting me here. But I don't need you anymore." I watched the smoke rise into the night sky. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, a physical release of tension I had carried since I was 6 years old. I was free. 3 months later, I stood on a stage in a hotel ballroom in downtown Chicago. There were 500 people in the audience. The banner behind me read, "The Harrison Foundation, Annual Gala for Missing Children." My legs were shaking a little. Public speaking was still new to me. But I looked down at the front row. My mother, Eleanor, was beaming. My father, William, gave me a thumbs up. Lucas was winking at me. I took a deep breath and leaned into the microphone. "My name is Nia Harrison," I said. The name felt powerful on my tongue. But for 32 years, I was someone else. The room went silent. You could hear a pin drop. "I was a ghost," I continued. "I was a statistic. I was a girl who was told she was unwanted, unrelated, and unworthy. I was told I was a burden." I looked out at the faces in the crowd. Donors, police officers, social workers, survivors. My stepmother kicked me out on my 18th birthday because she said I wasn't her blood. She was right. I wasn't her blood. I was her paycheck. But she made a mistake. She thought that by stripping me of my home, she would break me. She didn't know that she was sending me on a path to find the truth. I paused, letting the emotion swell. We often think of justice as something that happens in a courtroom. And yes, I got that justice. The woman who tormented me is in prison. The sister who betrayed me is facing the consequences of her greed. But real justice isn't about punishment. Real justice is about restoration. I gestured to the screen behind me. A photo appeared. It was the nursery. The yellow walls. The hand-painted alphabet border. The crib that had stood empty for 3 decades. When I walked back into my childhood home, I said, my voice cracking slightly, "I found this room. My parents kept it exactly as it was the day I was taken. People told them to move on. People told them to turn it into a guest room or a gym. But they refused. They kept space for me, I said, tears flowing freely now. Even when logic said I was gone, love said I was coming home. There are thousands of children out there right now who are being told they don't matter. Who are being used, exploited, and erased. I am standing here today to say, we are looking for you. We are fighting for you. And we will not stop until you are home. The applause started slowly, then built into a roar. People were standing up. My mother was openly weeping. I felt a warmth spread through my chest that had nothing to do with the spotlight. It was the feeling of purpose. After the speech, as the gala wound down, I found myself standing on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Lucas came up beside me, handing me a glass of sparkling cider. "You killed it," he said. "Donations are already pouring in." It felt good, I admitted. To use the story for something other than pain. So, Lucas clinked his glass against mine. "What's next for Nia Harrison?" "Law school. Running the foundation. Taking over Dad's firm." I smiled. "Maybe college first. I always wanted to learn accounting. Real accounting. Not just juggling bills to keep the lights on." "You'll be the most overqualified freshman in history," Lucas laughed. "I have time," I said, looking up at the moon. For the first time in my life, I have time. I thought about the $52 I had in my pocket that day at the MEDICAID office. I thought about the clerk, Sharon, who typed my number and paused. One small act of paying attention. One moment that unraveled a lifetime of lies. I wasn't just an heiress to a fortune. I was an heiress to a truth, that no matter how deep you are buried, the truth always wants to come into the light. And when you finally dig yourself out, you don't just survive. You bloom. I took a sip of the cider. It tasted sweet. It tasted like victory. Thank you for listening to my entire journey. I am truly grateful for you. If you've made it this far, you are different from the rest, you care about justice and truth. Please comment the letter A below so I know you are one of the special ones who watched until the very end. If you have any thoughts on Linda's sentence or my new life, write them down. And please, click on the next video on the channel to hear more stories like mine. Thank you, and never give up.